Thank you for attending How to Manage During a Crisis from Peer Executive Groups. This workshop is a breakout from Peer Executive Groups strategy sessions. Contact us at peerexecutivegroups.com for more information. Credit for this workshop goes to the eMyth, content from emyth.com, and the eMyth book by Michael Gerber. In moments of crisis, it can be hard to see beyond the overwhelm. You may be faced with the need to keep employees safe, manage productivity, protect revenue, or all three at once in an environment that's constantly changing. You may discover that your crisis issues actually point to things your business needed you to address a long time ago. But even in crisis, there's opportunity. As the leader of your business, taking hold of the opportunity first falls to you. These aren't easy leadership moments, but you can have the opportunity and the responsibility to serve and guide your people. To do that, you need a system. Examples of systems built to endure a crisis are everywhere. Take the human body for one. It's an amazing example of interconnected systems that go into action when a situation calls for it, whether it's an adrenaline rush or rapid deployment of white blood cells. When you view your business as an interconnected web of systems, it should likewise include responses for both positive changes and negative ones. Okay, in this workshop, we'll show you the 5 steps you need to create a crisis management system for your business so you can navigate challenging times while also setting up your company to be stronger in the future. So number 1, we're going to assess the current impact. Take a moment to baseline your business so that you can see what's true about the business at this moment or last week or 2 weeks ago, but not in the future, not tomorrow. Number 2, identify what your people need. Dive deep into what your employees need in unstable moments and create a communication plan that addresses those needs. Number 3, we're going to discover what your customers need today. So design an honest communication strategy that not only serves your customers, but gives them a sense of certainty, stability, and unity when things feel out of control. Number 4, we're going to envision your business post-crisis. So describe what your business will look like once a new normal has settled in. Number 5, we're going to strategize your short-term future. So make your short-term strategic decisions in the context of your long-term vision. So before we get started, a couple of points to keep in mind. Do not forget these. You don't have to have the answers to lead. A crisis demands leadership, but leadership doesn't require you to have all the answers or even know all the questions. What leadership asks is that you communicate and make decisions in a way that gives your people something to stand on. Number 2, don't abandon your foundation. When you built your company, you did it with some idea of what you wanted it to be, the values and brand you wanted your company to represent. Tap into that idea. Solid ground starts with that foundation, and whatever actions you take should reflect that idea. That's the only way to be sure that you and your company operate with integrity. Number 3, think like an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur always holds a long-term vision. As you develop a crisis management system, the big picture context has to be that this event, circumstance, or situation will pass. Unless the result of this crisis is that your products or services will never again be needed, prepare your company for when circumstances return to a new normal. That way you'll avoid making short-term reactive decisions and instead take strategic actions that set you up for the future. Lastly, communicate. During moments of instability, it's so important that you keep communicating with your employees, your customers, and your community. Your thoughtful, genuine voice builds stability and confidence. So number 1, let's assess the current impact. In the case of a crisis, you need clarity and perspective before you jump into making decisions. Creating a business baseline will give you a clear picture of how the current crisis is actually impacting your business right now. So here's some questions that will help you develop that baseline. The key is to quantify the relevant impacts. Imagine that you're looking at your company from the outside and observing what's happening. So review your current financials as of right now. If you don't have those at hand, get them from your accountant or bookkeeper. How are your numbers today different from what you expected or experienced prior to the crisis? Take a moment, pause, and write down your answer. Okay, next question. Let's review your product or service capabilities. In this moment, do you need to increase or decrease your production? By how much? What types of products and services are most needed? Take a minute, pause, and write down your answer. Another good one is to review your staffing. Do you need more people or fewer people right now? What impacts has this crisis had on filling the positions you need? Take a minute, pause, and write down your answer. Okay, now let's look at your customers. Are you gaining or losing customers? Are you gaining or losing sales? What is the cause of this? Take a minute and pause and write down your answer. Okay, moving on to number 2, identify what your people need. Every day, you ask your employees to care for your business as much as you do, and this care develops as you care for your employees. In times of crisis, it's your opportunity to shine in demonstrating this care. This shows up through different actions. For example, simply ask yourself, how can I lead my people through this crisis? Give your employees a way to express their concerns, fears, and challenges. Be sensitive as to whether this should be public, where people can draw strength from each other, or private to protect individual concerns, or anonymous. Ask your people directly what they need. For example, is there anything at all we can do to support you? Recognize that people may be impacted differently by changes that are occurring, and so they may respond differently based on their individual circumstances. Once you've thought about what your employees may need from their work and from you in this moment, both tangibly, like time off to care for the family, or intangibly, like having a supportive work environment, develop a communication plan that addresses that. Here are some questions to get you started. How will you communicate with your team and how often? Should it be in one-on-one conversations, team meetings, or email? Is it daily, weekly, or as needed? Does it just need to come from you, or do you need to prepare your managers to communicate certain things as well? Consistency builds stability. Take a minute and write down your response. Okay, next question. What message does your team need to hear? This could include your personal outlook, specific instructions, or decisions you've made or will be making. Take a minute, pause, and write down your answer. Next question, what do you need to know from them to develop your plan? This message is equally important whether you're striving to keep your people, adding new people, changing the work they do, or letting them go. Pause now and write down your answer. On to number 3, discover what your customers need today. Depending on the type of crisis, your customers may be in critical need or may need something different than what you currently offer. In this step, you'll review your different target markets and the products and services you offer. Start by answering these questions. Okay, feel free to pause as needed as we go through this next slide. We're going to look at change. Has anything changed regarding what your customers need? Has anything changed regarding what you should offer? And are these changes temporary? And if so, how long are they temporary? We also want to look at change as it relates to your customer type. And that has to do with, are the changes different depending on different demographics or market types? Are there other markets or services you should consider and would be prepared to deliver on quickly? We call that pivoting. In light of your responses to these questions, what type of communications do you need to deliver and when? What do you need to communicate to help reduce doubts, fears, and knowledge gaps and support productive decision-making for your customers? Put yourself in their shoes as you brainstorm any product or service changes you need to make. Then develop a communication plan that speaks to those changes. So how will you communicate with your customers and how often? What message do they need to hear? What mediums or platforms will you use to communicate with them, and how will you adapt your message for each one? And what do you need to know from them? Take a moment, pause, and write down some answers. Now it's time to move on to number 4, envision your business post-crisis. By our definition of a crisis, you're at a turning point. No matter which way the turning point leads, consider it an opportunity to move towards something better for you and your company. This means that you have to define what you want your business to be when the crisis is past. To start, set an appropriate time horizon to focus on. It might be 3 months, 6 months, or even 1 to 2 years. Choose a date where you can imagine you'll be completely on the other side of this major turning point. With this date in mind, think about how you want your business to look in terms of products or services, customers, finances, i.e. revenues and expenses, employee and employee engagement, and marketing. For example, you may decide that you want your business to go back to normal, that once the crisis has passed, you'll provide the same products and services to the same customers in the same way. Or you may foresee changes in your delivery method, the products and services you'll offer, or the types of customers you'll have, either out of necessity or opportunity. Now think about your employees. Consider whether you'll maintain the same positions you have currently, make changes to how you recruit and hire, or do something different with your management structure. This is an envisioning exercise. You're thinking forward to how you want your business to operate. So you need to see past the crisis to the way you imagine circumstances will be, and you may need to consider multiple scenarios. In each of the tables we're about to show, write where your business is today, where you'd like your company to be, and what changes you'd like to make in how it runs. So first, products and services. Second, customers. Next, finances. Employees. Then marketing. Okay, our last activity is to strategize your short-term future. Experiencing a crisis often includes a period of uncertainty, adjustment, and transition. If this is the case, you're going to need some short-term strategies to respond to any number of unknowns. It's vital that you have the perspective of your long-term vision that you created in step 4 before you consider short-term strategies. You want to be sure that the short-term decisions you make will move you forward toward that vision, or at least not block you from getting there. Because your short-term plan needs to accommodate unpredictability and dependence on outside factors, you'll have to devise a series of triggers and actions. You can't predict the future, but you can track metrics that inform your choices. In this step, you'll develop a set of triggers that tell you when to take certain actions. A trigger can be a date, a metric, or some external event. For example, dates set a specific date to look at various sales and production metrics. Metrics set a specific metric, like a sales number, that dictates action no matter when you hit that number. Third, events. Identify an external event that you could reasonably anticipate, such as your state reopening, or any other government regulation or change in your current circumstances. For each trigger, plan a course of action that responds to it. This is a great time to help with brainstorming and get a variety of ideas out on the table. Keep these things in mind as you work on your short-term strategy. Everyone involved in this process must be clear on your future goal, the outcome you envisioned in step 4. Action should always be in alignment with your values and brand. Action should take you as close as possible to the outcome you want to achieve. If you do have to take some backward steps, plan them with a view toward getting back to your vision. This time is a time to be conservative. The very nature of a crisis is an unknown. The purpose of this step is to help you make informed choices rather than emotional ones, but keep them conservative. This is a decision-making process. The idea is to make a proactive plan in advance, so you can make decisions based on metrics and not emotions. It requires you to make decisions about spending, staffing, production, and delivery based on current and changing circumstances. Take time to identify your triggers and the actions that you'll take. So, some last thoughts. In crisis, people often go into survival mode. It's realistic, but we all do better together than apart. And as a business leader, you're also a community leader. This is a great time for you to be a resource rather than a hoarder of resources. It's a time to be helpful and supportive to others, and this includes your competitors. So share your resources, your ideas, and your communications. This may be your first crisis that you face, but it won't be your last. How you act now matters. You have an opportunity to lift up and inspire your community. So please remember to be conservative, be confident, and share with all your stakeholders. Thank you for attending this workshop. Please contact us if you'd like to have more information about our video happy hours, our peer groups, or our strategy sessions. Thank you.